Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Mid-Season Brawl, as we are in our third series of the day, and it's a very important one in the upper bracket as we continue things here for the Mid-Season Brawl. To my left-hand side, I have Wolf, I have Skimmy, I have Dreadnought. Gentlemen, let's not go to the new series just yet. Let's briefly talk about what we saw from Dignitas, of course, Dreadnought, and seeing how Dignitas was able to kind of, I think, iron out some of the creases towards the end. Felt a bit better for their progression in this tournament.
They were definitely able to do that. I feel like, you know, clean things up as the series kind of moved on, but at this point in time, like, we're moving far enough of the bracket where I can't help but feel like that is not what we can expect out of these teams, especially if they want to be able to hold their own and actually claim themselves a Mid-Season Brawl champions with teams like Gen.G. So I'm a little bit scared that we still see that moving, you know, throughout the bracket here, even from Dignitas.
Yeah, they're not only going to have to iron out, they're going to have to dry clean, they're going to have to get the steamer, everything. When it comes to moving through even further, we shall find out later. Let's check in with the schedule, just to keep you guys up to date with what is going on so far here for the Mid-Season Brawl. And it was a 3-2, it was a 3-1, and now we move on to one of the big highlights, one of the matches that we've been anticipating since the very first day of the Mid-Season Brawl. It's Gen.G going up against Tempest. Wolf, this match, for a lot of people, after we watched the group stage, was the one to look out for, was the one that we think might be the grand final of this entire tournament.
Yeah, it was in 2016, and it's a match I get to cast 4 times a year minimum, so I really enjoy this matchup when we get to see it. In the past, I feel like Tempest has always been overshadowed by Ballistics, always been overshadowed by MVP Black, KSV, and now, of course, Gen.G. So for Tempest, I think it's a huge pride moment. This is an opportunity to show the world I am the best team in Korea, and by extension for this tournament, that basically says I am the best team in the world. So this is a big opportunity for Tempest to make a huge statement. But we have to remember, this very match could end up being rematched in the grand final. So how much you want to show in this best of 5 is really up to who's the team that's behind, I guess.
Well, I'll get your thoughts in a moment, Skimmy, as we are ready to welcome our teams onto the stage. So without further ado, it's going to be our next best of 5 here in the winners bracket finals, as Gen.G is going to go up against Tempest. Gen.G so far, throughout the entirety of the tournament, has looked nigh on unstoppable. But on the same page, we have Tempest on the other side, who have had 1 or 2 moments where it looked a little bit vulnerable, but they have shone through Skimmy as one of the teams to look out for.
Yeah, the vulnerability for me is going to be the one to try and keep your eye on. We've seen the vulnerabilities from multiple teams, such as Tempo Storm, such as Dignitas, that Gen.G have exploited. You're looking coming into this series, are we going to see a clean 3-0, or are we going to see Tempest really showcase all their preparation now? As Wolf mentions, it's a true test of your resolve, but also how confident you are feeling that you can make it to the grand final.
I can't help but feel like, you know, this series for me comes down to heart. Especially when looking at the side of Tempest, there's a lot of passion and a lot of things going on, you know, kind of whenever we watch them throughout the entirety of the group stage. And I would argue, you know, when looking at the results that we saw from MVP Black, now Gen.G at Mid-Season Brawl last year, a lot of heart was kind of missing from that roster. And now it's kind of like this is the only thing left for them to win. And the question is that enough for them to be able to carry through over the absolute passion and, you know, wanting to define themselves that it feels like we see from Tempest?
I mean, the funny thing is I remember when not even too long ago, when the rebrand came in from KSV to Gen.G, they said that their logo represents all 3 aspects of the MOBA genre almost, right? To the sword in the middle of the defense, the shield, and the heart, which represented support. So that kind of heart shape here from Gen.G has kind of rekindled their spirit a little bit here. Wolf, coming into the tournament.
I would definitely say so. I mean, you're now sponsored by one of the most elite esports organizations in the world. Yeah. And, you know, you're representing Korea here, coming in as first seed, and I think this series is going to be about, and Dreadnought and I have both talked about this a lot, Hyde, who's not actually shown on screen here.
He's swooning. He's swooning.
I was going to say, that's not Hyde. That's not Hyde.
But Hyde is the best support in the world. I think we could say that. Today, in this exact moment in time, Hyde is the best support in the world. I think we could also say the best DPSs in the world are on the other side. Of Gen.G, you've got Rich, you've got Reset. Yep. So this series, I think, will be about DPS versus support. And, you know, some of the inconsistencies of Lockdown and Dami on those ranged positions can come into play here. So they're going to need to step up big time if they're going to want to take this series.
Kind of carrying that a little bit farther, though, I can't help but feel like, you know, Hyde's a bit outnumbered in the fact that Gen.G has double the DPS compared to the one support there of Hyde, if that's going to, you know, kind of come to light here. And that is the man that I think they're going to have to rely on to be able to recover. It very much feels like it is the back line of Gen.G to me versus the front line and the support of Tempest. I mean, don't get me wrong, Dami is an absolutely astounding Gen.G, even Hanzo in certain circumstances, and Lockdown has been very impressive on things like Phoenix, but I feel like the star-studded, you know, perspective of, or parts of Tempest are very much within the front and back line.
Just give me your thoughts on Tempest.
I mean, to echo the points once again, we know how strong Hyde is. It begs the question as to how much magic can come across from those 2 years ago. When you bring Dami back onto the roster, he's back on home soil where he was able to pick up that championship before. Is that enough to get into the mental side of Gen.G?
And we go to Battlefield of Eternity for the first game between Korea and Korea, Wolf.
I think that when we head into this battleground, the only thing the entire draft changes based on one hero. There is one hero, and his name is Hanzo. Based on where Hanzo goes, the entire draft is going to change. You know, if you're first picking it here as Tempest, I think you lead the draft. You force Gen.G to go into a more dive-heavy composition, but it may be banned as well. You know, this may be a time we see that first ban Hanzo come through. The draft has to get a little bit more complicated because Hanzo does win the race. If you have a Hanzo, you cannot lose the race. The enemy has to build a dive composition. So if you start the draft with a Hanzo, the rest of your draft becomes very predictable. So there's a lot of ways to change it up that way.
I think in this draft, we're going to see an adjustment with Malfurion as well. Gen.G has already kind of shown a little bit of that kind of paradigm of if I can't pick it in the first pick slot, I'm going to force you to ban it in the second. If not, go for the first pick. I think this is going to set the standard here. This is one of the only battlegrounds that might be an outlier on, again, due to the Hanzo racing capabilities, but I really think that Malfurion is going to be banned in the second slot a lot throughout the series.
All right, let's get into it. It is going to be our best of 5 winners bracket final. Gen.G goes up against Tempest. The winner of this moves on to the grand final here at the Mid-Season Brawl.
So they go ahead and take the Hanzo away first. So we're not going to have that insane defensive composition here for either team. Gen.G removed now as well. Shimada's off the table, so that also weakens the potential of dive coming to this. And Malfurion does come in first. This is a great first pick here for Tempest, allows them to flex based on what Gen.G shows.
Like Tempest opening up with this Malfurion, as you say, doesn't really give too much away. We're not going to see Hyde on his Uther, but it's a very early pick on the Uther. But on the side of Gen.G, you now have the power picks in the sense of a Maiev, in the sense of a Tyrael. You still got the Tracer composition available if you want to try and deny that away from the Malfurion. So I feel like you've got a couple of different options to try and force that engage. Potentially you're not looking for that Immortal Race. You are just looking to try and find those picks and exert who is the strongest mechanical team.
With the amount of strength that Malfurion provides to the composition of Tempest already on raw healing, I want to know what is Gen.G going to do to try and compensate for that. Again, they've been one of the few that have been comfortable, willing to kind of get that ban out. And then Blaze is one of those things that kind of comes to mind to be able to make up for that. Now that we're talking Korea, it's optional, you know, to move into the Tyrael. But I do feel like Malfurion, because he is such an outlier within the support role, supporting has to be compensated in other areas. And I think Europe is adopting that heavily when looking in the drafts of the last series.
I think the cool thing about Malfurion too is not only does he have sustained healing, but he also has the ability to protect when heavy dive comes through with his silence. So that's one of the reasons why I think Gen.G moves away from dive here, despite the fact that they didn't have to go for a poke composition this early in the draft. They take Li Ming here. They want to stay away from Hyde's Malfurion. They want to stay away from that playmaking ability. Li Ming is very flexible on this map because no matter what you draft with her as secondary DPS, she can always get in a position to poke. Whether she's hitting the Immortal or she's hitting tanks that are trying to prevent her from hitting the Immortal, she is always going to get value on this battleground, especially if there's not heavy dive on the other side where she's not under threat, not under duress. And with Malfurion as your support, and with Gen.G removed, you're not really worried about protecting Li Ming. This is the only hero that exists that's available right now that Li Ming should be worried about, the Tracer pick, but it's so early in the draft now that Gen.G has time to respond.
The Task Tracer threat is going to be, I mean, huge, not only because the percentile damage spike to have kill potential onto the Garrosh, but Garrosh being as immobile as he is, and Li Ming with that poke potential, as you said, with Hanzo banned out, Li Ming is far and above the best poke. Lunara is very suboptimal compared to those two.
Right.
That puts it in a prime position to, you know, typically the Li Ming wants to sit back and poke, but Task Tracer comps are up in your face, and it comes at almost no cost to the composition, only accented by the fact that they have the Hawk coming out from the Malfurion. So I feel like this is an absolutely great start before the second ban phase for Tempest if they're going to hold their own.
We're looking at Tempest right now and looking to try and see where their ban priorities lie. I'm wondering if we're looking to try and take away some of those immunities. It's not going to be the UFO, it's not going to be the Tyrael, nor is it going to be the Medivh. They are going to target at Maiev to make sure that their engagement potential is limited with that Garrosh to start things off with.
I think the Johanna ban, it might look at first glance a little bit peculiar, right? You've got Li Ming, you don't have any auto-attacking heroes at the moment in your draft, so you're not worried about blinds whatsoever. But at the same time, because you do have this Garrosh priority, the other meta tanks that are left after Johanna removed, you really think about the ETC, you think about the Anubarak, and both of those heroes have to come in towards Garrosh. You've already set up a defensive composition with the Li Ming and the Garrosh together. Garrosh works very well in terms of the tank matchup there. When the tanks are coming through, Garrosh tosses them back in, turns that aggression into a liability. So this Johanna pick, I think, could have come in as safety. You could use the Iron Skin to get into position, go through those Garrosh stuns and tosses, of course, but now not available.
Wouldn't actually mind if Tempest were to draft into an Arthas, try and slow down. We've seen Sake just bust out the Karazim in situations where we feel like it's not going to find too much value, but they've managed to make it always seem to work. Arthas is a bit of an old school pick on a map like this as well, when you can see already that Gen.G are looking for that poke and then the full collapse to try and find those resets. That'd be one way to try and overwhelm them, start the fight off on your own terms.
That rotation for Gen.G almost locked in the remainder of this draft for me in terms of how much manipulation they're going to have. Not only do they have probably the most dominant off lane, there's very few that can get that trade, and maybe a Sonya, which Tempest might make the transition into, but it's not going to pack the punch I feel like they need. Not only do they have the macro pressure onto the off lane, they have the Karazim, and again, Blaze for that cross-supporting, which I think is necessary into the Malfurion. Blaze deals well with the Pulse Bomb. From beginning to end, they are winning in all win conditions, and again, that Karazim threat that it provides to Tracer, she's not nearly as, difficult to deal with that pickup for Sake. Ooh. We do see the Tyrael, in fact, going to be the answer here for a bit more sustain, but I can't help but feel like this might be too reactionary from Tempest.
I also feel like they have a weak off lane. It will either be the Tyrael or the Tassadar. It kind of flexes as the top laner here against the 4-man, and against the Blaze, you're going to have problems with either one of those matchups. Sure, Tassadar could just sit there all day long, but he's not going to have any impact in the 4-man then, so you lose out on that regard. So worried about this draft a lot here for Tempest.
And usually, Skimmy, when we've seen Gen.G actually approach things, we saw it in the group stage where Gen.G, yes, is very good at focusing one target, but they were also good at focusing multiple targets if the situation arose. When it comes to Tracer and Valor, there may just be too much pressure onto potentially both targets for all of the support to try and spread themselves out.
Well, that's the question, right? We've seen it happen before where there's this double-pronged attack and you're looking to try and target one of those attack damage carries, and if it's going to be split between the two, those resources will be baited out. They will execute within those cooldown windows. The Valor, I feel like, is a direct response to the Li Ming to try and have some kind of race potential, given that Hanzo's been taken off. And the Tyrael, I like the Tyrael personally because it is a career, but I just don't know when you're going to get that certification off based on what you can see.
I actually think that Vala is not so much into the Li Ming. I mean, the Gloom is a great tool to be able to deal with it. But
the race potential.
I would even argue it's even, if it was race potential, I think Greymane would be the go-to in that type of situation. I think it's the tri-lane, off-lane pressure that they were struggling in the Avenue. They know they can't deal with the 1-4 over the middle objective. So in the downtime, the Vala off-lane for the side siege is going to be able to help them compensate. And I actually feel like that Alarek as a last pick, though I love me some Alarek from Rich, is actually playing into the expectation of a 1-4. So I'm suddenly wondering if that Vala pick was a bit more clever than I gave it credit for at first.
Time for predictions.
I will say that I think Tempest is one of the only teams at this tournament who can take a game off Gen.G, and I do think they're capable of it in the series, but I'm not confident this is the draft to make it happen. I got to go Gen.G.
Okay.
Same again. I pretty much summed up my points before. I feel like the Tyrael's going to have a very hard time trying to get his certification off, and based on Gen.G's record, I'm not going to vote against him until I see otherwise. Gen.G.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of leaning towards the same here. We just don't know how this draft is going to operate yet for Tempest. It's a little bit unknown. I think Dreadnought kind of highlighted what this draft is probably going to do, but we don't have enough information. I think the Alarek's a nice little final pick here. The Silence is going to be very powerful against both the Tracer and the Tyrael, so Gen.G for sure.
And I'll go back to my original rule for when I broke it whilst they were playing against Dignitas of not voting against Gen.G until they lose. So we'll go for Gen.G, or it's a ridiculous draft. So that's how that's going to go. Let's check in with Twitch chat and see what they think as well. 72% of you think that Gen.G is going to be able to take this first game, and not too many surprises there, although echoing the sentiments of Dread. It seems like Tempest might be the team to do it here in the tournament so far. Let's head over to our commentary team to bring us game number 1. You guys have got to be excited for this one.
I'm actually kind of feeling this draft from Tempest a little bit. I'm not going to lie. I mean, they're making a lot of room for Vala to bring out the Hungering Arrow build and shred the Immortal.
Tempest basically went in and said, what's better than 1 hyper carry? Yeah, let's go with 2 hyper carries. It's a bit of an aggressive variation, but hey.
Well, we'll see if it works. Have fun.
All right, let's move into it here as we set up for a BOE. So no Hanzo in this battleground for the first time. It feels like weeks. I feel like nobody bans a hero for some reason on this battleground. So we'll see how exactly it will pan out for Gen.G and Tempest as we head straight on into it.
And it's also pretty cool that we have one of the best, if not the best map of Korea right at the beginning of this match as we are heading into it. And to the left side of BOE, we have Tist on Garrosh, Reset playing Liming, Kyoja on Blaze, Sak on Karazim, and Rich on Alarak. Ladies and gentlemen, Gen.G!
On the right side, Hyde playing Malfurion, Dami on Tracer, Good on Tassadar, Lockdown to play Vala, and Sign on Tyrael. It's gonna be Tempest.
Double hyper carry here on the side of Tempest, going straight into the Malfurion and Tassadar combo with a single Tyrael at the front. The Tyrael, of course, is also going to add some additional shields to this, and Tracer and Vala have to be absolutely on point here, so a lot of the pressure is going to be at the two of them.
That it is. I'm going to be watching Dami, see how he dances around, Reset. And of course, later on, when that Alarak comes online, already moving into the Lightning build here on level 1, something that we see from Alarak and Rich in particular pretty often. He's a very good defensive hero. When your opponent is on top of your Immortal trying to burn it down, Alarak being able to combo heroes into the stuns is a great tool to have.
And he can definitely create a lot of opportunities to take down Vala in particular, so the extended Lightning coming in on 1, as you already mentioned. But it's really interesting to me that we have Lockdown now on Vala up at the top lane, very much alone. And that is something that, of course, the analysts have been talking about too. With the draft that they're running here, who do they send to the top lane? They could have decided in favor of Tassadar, but at the end of the day, it's Vala who has to hold their own against Blaze.
Yeah, at least Vala can put some damage in there. Oh, hang on, Sign being thrown against the wall here, trying to escape it. Won't be able to get away, just barely. Dami going in. He gets the pulse bomb on Reset. Oh, but he can't quite get the kill.
Nicely done here. First of all, the aggression against Tyrael, but Sign able to move out. And then the potential counter kill even, as we see Tracer just darting into the backline. Dami with a great play here. Very mobile, of course. And they are once again in position. And I'm actually loving this attempt of making Alarak and Garrosh work together.
It is something that is pretty strong to have displacement on multiple heroes. We've seen it in the past with Garrosh and maybe a Junkrat, but here we have it with Garrosh and Alarak. And if you can use the two together, you can move heroes across the map, it feels like.
It's pretty scary. The Telekinesis coming in and then the immediate swap attempt. So that's a pretty cool setup that Gen.G has. And keeps, of course, Tempest on their toes now in this first game of the best of 5.
Well, level 4 will be here soon, but so will the Immortal phase and the Merc Camp timing, which you normally have around 220, 230. Should be seeing Vala have some help soon from one of the members for Tempest to rotate up and allow Vala to start burning down those Mercs on the right side, especially with that level 1 Hungering Arrow coming in for them. Same for Gen.G though, as they set up this clear. Dami getting tossed to the side is going to be able to recall away.
Yeah, and for Vala at the top lane, of course, she is going to suffer against Blaze. There's no doubt about that. And her goal has to be after level 4 to get the quest started. And that's against Blaze, of course. Trying to just make sure that she gets that direct hit against him. And now that we're having the extra talents coming into play, the Immortal is also about to spawn. So we are starting to head into the first team fight of the game.
That is right. 15 seconds and counting. Tyrael on its way to the Mercs to the right side. Gen.G will do the same here to the left. Pretty typical play from our two teams. I'm more curious to see how exactly Gen.G will try to force a fight against Tempest. Tempest will be looking to Tracer to buy a lot of time. And so far, Dami's been playing pretty darn confident. I'm actually excited going into this Immortal phase. Him being confident is key here for this comp to work out.
I really feel on Tempest side, it's just a question, can we keep these guys alive? And them committing to a Tyrael solo tank and solo frontline at that is actually something that I didn't really expect heading into the chat, but it could definitely work out if they play their cards right. Really nice move there by Garrosh, throwing Sign into the stun. No consequence at that point, though, as both of the teams are going for the Immortal. And in this case, Gen.G a little bit faster.
Been talking about Vala and Tracer a lot, but you can't forget about Li Ming and Karazim, the race there. Very solid for them as they poke down the Immortal quickly. Tempest trying to answer back with lockdown on the right side while 4 come over and set up for defense. Dami has to stay healthy, but also try to dodge out this damage. As Saki comes on in, he's going to back up and wait for those shields.
And talking about the damage here, the defensive position on Tempest as they're trying to make sure that their own Immortal doesn't fall. But as you can see, Lockdown is now putting in the pain, and his Monster Hunter is definitely working for that. Good is positioning over 2, and Tempest is looking solid as the first Immortal falls, and they claim it.
Wow, Tempest being able to clear that out. A great 4-man defense on top of the Immortal, buying enough time for Lockdown to get an edge. And the moment they got that edge and health bars, they had Tracer come on over and finish the cleanup. Gen.G unable to keep up. Will now have an Immortal pushing in their lane against them. Now we'll see if Gen.G will have the defense here. The defense is great, as we've seen from between Garrosh and Alarak. It's a matter of whether or not Tempest oversteps.
The kill potential on Gen.G's side is definitely fantastic around the displacement that we highlighted earlier. So that's one of the things they're going to be looking for. But I love the adaptation of Tempest heading into this game, now pushing through that bot lane, trying to get that leading experience. The potential early level 7 already rich with the attempt, but now immediately everybody is going straight for Alarak here. They're trying to get the kill, diving behind the fort and moving, and Alarak is trying to get the counter kill here, and Tyrael explodes. Can they get a 1-for-1?
Kyocha comes in, tries to go for the jet propulsion, misses out on Dami. Dami gets a shield, keeps kiting away, but Malfurion's all by himself as he gets picked off. The Immortal, however, did do substantial damage to that fort. Got it down to less than a quarter health, and Tempest does hit 7 over their opponents while Vala continues to push in the top.
Now, there's definitely a couple of things to observe here. Now, first of all, inexperienced Tempest is still ahead. The double kill against them hurt, but as you mentioned, the Immortal in the meantime had a lot of time to go in and do the damage, and we saw Lockdown at the top lane doing solid work, pushing the lanes out and making sure that Gen.G was missing out on some experience. Now, even an added camp to that. So Tempest still in a decent spot, but the one thing I want to highlight is how this happened. It was Tempest starting to push in and waiting for Alarak to make his move. And once we actually saw the silence attempt coming out of Rich, that's the moment when Tempest immediately started to go in and say, like, guys, he just used his cooldowns. Now try and dive behind the fort and get the kill.
Now, this is a build that we used to talk about a lot in Europe, but one that we haven't seen in a while because Val's fallen off, the Hungering Arrow build. Moving into Repeating Arrow at level 7. This is one of the 2 major power spikes you'll get with a Vala, where you're able to dash forward with a vault or dash backwards if you need to, get a reset on that Hungering Arrow, and continue to look for those stacks, but also get that single target DPS damage, which is going to be important around the Immortal phase. So Vala now will be looking for those stacks, and for you guys at home that are looking, there's currently only 2 stacks right now at the 20 needed.
I'm actually a bit surprised to see the level 4 talent in Tacita as well. Now, we've been talking a lot about the choice on level 4, the extra life leech over armor or vice versa. And in this case, we have Tempest deciding for life leech, which really helps Dami. It also helps, of course, Lockdown on Vala. But the one reason why I really would have thought that going into armor might be a good choice for them is that there's quite a bit of blow-up potential on Gen.G's side. But more so, there is a single target at that front line. And to help keep Tyrael alive, getting the extra armor would have been a really good tool in your arsenal.
Honestly, there's so much blow-up available for Gen.G. If they do get that catch there, it feels like even that talent wouldn't work out. So they're going to go ahead and try to focus on positioning and make sure that Dami plays right. But here we go. As you mentioned, if one target does get picked, they are done. Tassadar gets thrown. Can't even dimensional shift if he's taken out.
Insta blow-up. Well played by Gen.G. Absolutely fantastic coordination by them. And that's, again, all that displacement that comes into play here, as we've been saying earlier. That gives them a slight leading experience as they are trying to win that race towards level 10 with the Immortals already on the field.
While Gen.G heads over to the Immortal to get a heads up, they're going to go ahead and have Tempest go to the bottom lane and take this fort, which gives them a nice hike in experience. They're going to jump towards that level 10 as 10 is about to hit for them. Vala looking that top lane as well. So Tempest will have a small window to contest the Immortal phase.
Yeah, I'm not 100% certain if that was really the move here. It depends on how much damage they can do now, because they gave up the halftime shot just to snipe that fort and try to get the early level 10. That means that small window is something they have to utilize now. They're currently trying to do exactly that, moving in against the Immortal and trying to burst it down. But Gen.G has their own level 10 as we speak and immediately setting up for the defense here.
Vala working in those Hungering Arrows, the original Hanzo, if you remember back in the day. Chunking it down pretty darn quickly, about the halftime show already, but Gen.G, they are ready to fight with level 10. They go in. That's going to be a taunt. That's going to be a bunker as one member deleted already as Ball has been taken out. Dami's the next target as Saka continues to chase.
Dami with a turnaround attempt here. The Palm on the other hand hits the Monk and he still survives. Great play. Tracer falls finally. Dami is dead, but maybe the kills here. Reset. The counter kill as they're moving in and they're not done yet. They're trying to go for Rich. They're trying to go for Alarak. And Rich survives with the telekinesis. They stun out Tyrael and somehow they're moving away. Sake live too. Dashing away here. Unbelievable.
Sign is their damage dealer. He's trying to find the smite, but Sake is able to dash away. Here comes the Twilight Dream Tide as well. Garrosh trying to retreat, but they're all low on health and still alive.
Every single one of them escapes here. I feel if Tempest would have shifted their focus earlier onto Garrosh, they could have gotten the kill here, but they were really trying to get Rich. And to be fair, that could have led to 3 kills, but as it stands, only Li Ming fell and she's already back to business. Now finally locked down on Vala, moving in again for the final blow against the Immortal. And this game is all over the place at this point. Gen.G is getting all the kills, but Tempest is winning the Immortals.
Exactly. Tempest chasing those kills may not have resulted in kills, but it resulted in a massive amount of space. And once Vala was able to get on back, she was all by herself on the Immortal, and that gave Tempest the ability to grab the objective. And now they'll have a top lane to push in with a mercenary camp to boot here as they grab that on the side.
And right now, Tempest, of course, in a position where they're pushing, but we still see Vala at the bottom of the map, trying to make sure that the fort is not under pressure and getting the extra experience. Rich already moving out as they have vision. They want to go for the kill, and they're going straight in for Malfurion. And Malf goes down. Rich opening up these kills on Alarak, getting the telekinesis, and following up with the lightning. All that output is just too much for Malf to handle. But the Immortal still with the damage on the fort itself.
Getting down to a little under half health there. Kyocho with the oil really setting up that kill too, with Malfurion being slowed so much that the Groundbreaker was pretty easy for them to hit. Rich is the target once again for Tempest. They would love to get him to reset on stacks, but with Li Ming lingering in the corner here in the top left corner, Tempest needs to be careful. Is there a point where Li Ming can come in, try and snipe a target and get that reset?
Yeah, it's definitely a bit of an awkward position for Tempest here. So they need at some point to really find their kills. They've been playing great around the Immortal, and that is what gave them, for quite some time, elite in experience, but now at least keeps them in the game, which is half a level behind Gen.G. But Gen.G has been dominating these team fights, and as the death timers are continuously rising, that's going to become more important. So Tempest has to find something in these fights, an opportunity to take down maybe Alarak, maybe Li Ming, but they have to secure these kills somehow.
At some point, I would like Vala also to come to the fights as well to get some stacks going. She currently only has 6 of the 20 that she would need for her level 4. Looking over to Alarak on his level 4, he has 16 stacks that he needs here. So the stacks aren't really coming as forward as you would like as a Vala player. You want to get that 20 as quick as you can. So we should see her rotate soon, and she's doing so now. As Sign gets focused, he gets taunted, he gets silenced, and he's done.
Those are the insta-kills that we've been talking about. The main reason why we mentioned the level 4 on Tacita, that taunt on Garrosh was absolutely fantastic and robbed Tyrael from the ability to use his sanctification. So he goes down, Gen.G takes the fort, and they take a massive experience lead here to boot.
Tempest will hit 13 though, as they soak that lane on the top. 13 seconds and counting, the Immortals will spawn. As Gen.G grabs the mercenary camps, get those pushed out. Blaze also did with the camp that Vala grabbed earlier. So in terms of map control, Gen.G is looking pretty darn solid right now. Tempest will need to find a way to clear that up, but also keep an eye on these Immortals.
Now the level 13 talents are going to be highly important here for Tempest. We have Ice Block on Malfurion. That's already the first tool here to use.
Yeah.
We've seen a couple of really nice dodges on several heroes. Tacita coming to mind with a dimensional shift as Blaze was looking for the engage, but now Malfurion finally has a tool that he can use as well. And Nullification is another one of these tools that you can use in the big fight to just reduce that damage output significantly.
Interesting pickup here at level 13 for Tyrael, going for Sword of Justice, looking for a second ability to jump on the Aldruins. Typically you see that Holy Ground or even a Law and Order if we've been in Europe. So Korea really changing it up here, trying to look for a little bit more mobility so they can continue chasing. Sign goes in, does a little bit of harassment, but he kites on back.
And Tempest finds themselves again in the position where they lost out on the halftime show. 50% nearly gone here. And they have to turn this around somehow. They got the race potential, but they need to find an angle towards the Immortal of Gen.G first. And the best way would be to secure a kill here.
Dami on the side, sharking around, his steps up, drops a Groundbreaker, but Dami's wanting to move in. He has that Pulse Bomb available. Strafe also at the ready here from Vala if they can find the engagement they want. Problem is, this front line has been quite sturdy so far for Gen.G between Blaze and Garrosh.
Exactly. Those two are fantastic here, and Alarak is just sitting behind them, waiting for a chance to get a good telekinesis off, to get that silence in and just follow up with the damage, as Garrosh is, of course, looking for that flip. And here we are again, as Gen.G starts to push in and uses mainly Kyoja, mainly Blaze, to get that extra damage in on the Immortal. Liming is poking away, he gets the oil spill into position, and it's hard for Tempest to really get a good angle here.
Gen.G has full control. Tempest is aware of that, but they have to push the envelope. They're starting to move in. Tis gets harassed a little bit. Oh, a big stun comes in from the Immortal on the back left, and Vala gets deleted.
Rich is a god. The telekinesis straight into the Immortal stun, and that made it happen. Here comes the Palm too, as we're seeing the bunker being dropped. Reset gets out, moves away. We already have the Twilight Arc once again in play, trying to get a counter kill. That's not happening thus far, but the Storm could do serious damage to Kyoja.
Kyoja's low, Eldruins is down. Could have Sai move in, but he would risk going into trade value. Goes in for a little bit of harassment, comes on back. Dami unable to find that pickoff. He sees Tis, goes in, drops the pulse bomb. Will it be enough? He gets a kill on Garrosh, and next will be Kyoja.
And that was an insanely important kill here that we just saw for Tempest. Tracer, Dami with a move in there, trying to make it a double. Once again, Rich with the attempt to turn it around. Didn't quite work out for them. Reset on the run. Here comes the flying Kyoja with a stun attempt. That didn't work out for him, and all of a sudden he's in trouble. He goes down as well, as Tempest gets a double kill.
But Dami playing with fire. Rich turns around, grabs the telekinesis, and swipes him down into his death. Tempest losing one here as they have to turn around and focus the Immortal. Vola's already here though. Hungering Arrow again gonna help clear this out.
And Rich is just a beast. He set the first kill up already, and it was such a great play by him. He saw an opportunity, used the telekinesis to push Vala into the stun, and then she was taken out. And in that instance here, we see the same thing basically happening to Tracer. She oversteps just a little bit, and Rich is there right away.
These kills are really starting to stack up though for Gen.G. 16 hit the talent level. Tempest just now hitting 15, especially with that 4 being picked off. Gen.G having a massive lead over their opponents. That's Tempest. We'll have to wait for Tracer to get back on the field. There she is, and decide how they want to handle the next couple of minutes. 16 is imperative for them. They have to grab that heroic ability. The problem is with Gen.G consistently holding down these lanes, it's going to be difficult to get that 16 power spike.
But I think what really works for them is that at least they have a little bit of time.
Yeah.
The Immortal has just expired, has just been defeated, so they should be able to fight on a few level 16 talents at some point over the next objective. Taking the camp early as a result, you want to avoid that Gen.G moves in and takes it away. But of course, Gen.G is now in the know. They know that Tempest doesn't want to fight, so they are pushing the agenda right now. They're going to the bot, they're trying to take the towers, and they're trying to find another kill.
Rich is really looking for that kill as he puts himself in danger stepping up near those turrets and those gates, looking for that telekinesis, finds nothing. Tempest holds us pretty well. They get a decent amount of experience on that defense as they clear out that bottom lane and also take the Mercs to the top. This Merc being grabbed, huge for them. If Gen.G was able to keep pushing in this bottom lane, eventually they siege down that keep and put some damage on it.
I mean, Rich is just scaring the living hell out of me no matter what hero he plays on.
Terrifying.
If he's on Alarak and you have to move into him, that's just a big no way on my end. Tempest now with level 16s coming in just as the Immortals are spawning. Have to find a way around that somehow. They've been trying, and they got a few counter kills. I mean, they have 3 kills on the board, but the big problem for them is that it's always Gen.G starting the initiation. Once again, they're trying to go for lockdown.
Lockdown, able to get away thanks to Nature's Cures. Fine, continuing to harass. Dami goes in, dodges out on the jet propulsion. Dami cutting back consistently here, building out that pulse bomb, but at least Tempest gets a fight broken out and survives.
But there's so much initiation on Gen.G. They have Alarak to set it up. They have Garrosh, and they have also Kyoja with Blaze, who always looks for that jet propulsion. The entire time you feel just Tempest is dodging blows that come from every single angle.
Tempest just being on the back foot consistently in these team fights. Gen.G just seems to know how to take the battleground and make it their own. All 5 pushing in here, slowly sieging away on top of that Immortal. The Mirror Ball at level 16 coming in is impactful here for Li Ming as she continues to chunk away.
But the 16 for Tempest is also really important. It might give them more control, but no, Tracer is deleted. The Frost Shots on Vala could slow the onslaught down a little bit, and we have Tacita with a double storm now to soften them up, but it doesn't matter. Gen.G goes in and gets another double kill. They take down Vala, they take down Malfurion, and it's not even done yet. They're trying to drop Tacita here, and Good is juking them out so far, but they are still following that up.
He runs over here to the minions to try and watch out for Li Ming, but Saka, he does not care. He goes in, he delivers a punch with the help of Rich, and they get another takedown. Gen.G turns around and looks at the Immortal, and they're going to jump up and get that halftime show easily. Tempest going to take another 15 15 to 20 seconds to have all their members back on the field.
Gen.G is dominating this. Tempest came in with a bit of an unorthodox draft, going for the Tyrael as the solo frontline, having the hyper carry set up through Malf and Tacita for not only Tracer, but adding Vala into that composition too. But the fights are just not going their way. They don't have the initiation. Gen.G plays a patient game, waits until Tempest is trying to push into them, and then they're engaging from all angles, looking for the Alarak setup, looking for a Garrosh flip, or just simply for the stun through Blaze, and Li Ming is firing away. There's zero pressure on Reset in the entire game. He died once when he extended a little bit too much on a chase, but when he plays behind that front line, there's no way Tempest can actually touch him.
It's actually just impressive at how quickly Gen.G can pick a target and destroy it. We've seen 3 fights now where it's been opened up by a telekinesis into everyone jumping on that target, to the point where Sign can't even respawn with a standification in time to save that hero. It's been such a difficult thing for Tempest to even respawn. It feels like they have to be proactive here to even have a chance. But the issue is, they have an Immortal and an entire team of Gen.G pushing down their keep in the top right.
They're 2 levels behind too, and now another tower drops, and that is getting Gen.G closer and closer to 20, and they are going to look for game here. The keep is definitely going to fall. The question is simply, will they be able to get a kill? And if that happens, then it should be lights out for Tempest.
Kyocho is low, but he still has that bunker. Also have the Palm available too. The Immortal is still healthy with shields to boot here. Dami continues to dance. He's looking at Rich, trying to watch out for the telekinesis. Finally, the Immortal shields will expire, but the Immortal is on top of the core.
They're trying to go for the kill against Hyde here. Hyde with the ice block is doing what he can. The Palm comes out to save Reset, and it's good. At that time, Rich with the lockdown. Once again, we are seeing Gen.G's hit point bars drop, but doesn't matter. Tempest is trying to hold on as the core is already starting to fall in hit points.
Lockdown doing his best here to clear it up, and he finally will with the help of a task on a shield. They at least defend the push coming their way, but the damage has been done. 20 to level 17, almost 18 here for Tempest. They are severely behind, and they have to find a way to soak experience and also win the next Immortal phase.
Saving Malfurion, on the other hand, was such a crucial play here for Tempest that at least keeps them in the game a bit longer, but their situation is dire. 2 levels behind, Gen.G holding Storm Talents already, and Tempest has lost 28% on their core as well.
Reset walks in the bush first here, needs a pulse bomb, able to teleport away. Sign goes for the chase here as they try to chase him down, even with that level 20 being here. Gen.G doing just fine. Kyocho on the way with the bunker, so Gen.G looks to fight.
Reset with a bit of a face check into the bush. I got a great video that I can recommend there. At the same time, now Storms are coming out again once more. The taunt comes in, but Tacita is already down. They're trying to make that a double kill. The bunker already in play. Lockdown on the run. The sanctification comes through. The shields are there from Tyrael. Is it enough though? This time
Twilight Dream!
Malfurion, Twilight Dreams them. They get the kill against Li Ming, but Tracer falls.
And Sign will be going down next. That'll be 3 picked off here for Tempest, as Tempest goes for a miracle team fight that just does not work out for them. With Vala and only Malfurion up for defense, Gen.G with 4 run to the top lane and look to potentially push it and take this core.
They're trying to go for it for sure. The 2 catapults are definitely going to help if they keep them alive. Vala is there, and we have Malfurion in play now too. 17 seconds for Tacita. He can slow it down a bit with his shields, but he has already the play for Lockdown. They're trying to collapse, and there's their stun. Rich goes in and finishes the job with Garrosh. Down she goes. The bunker is in play, and Tempest core is falling as Gen.G is about to take game number 1 in the best of 5. The turnaround, the desperate attempt to save the core. It doesn't matter. Gen.G with the 1-0 lead in the series.
We've watched it time and time again at this event. Gen.G is just unmatched. When they decide they want to kill a target, that target is going down. Tempest with a miracle attempted team fight towards the end there that almost worked out for them. Reset walking into a bush. If we had Tracer and Sign maybe on the same page, he could have dived that target and killed it off, but being too far behind was just too much of an issue for Tempest.
Definitely an interesting draft that came in from Tempest, and I don't mind them trying something a bit different, but they were definitely lacking a lot of initiation potential, and they were lacking CC, and it didn't quite work out. Their thought process was really to dominate through the 2 hyper carries, and it was not enough to take Gen.G down. Great game from Gen.G, and the question simply is, how can you defeat them? Tempest will have to come up with something different.
Well, let's send over to our panelists who can maybe answer that question.
Alarak, that's my answer. Wow, wow, wow. What a game from Gen.G to start off the first of this series. But, you know, Tempest did have their moments there, but in the end, Gen.G still too strong. Dread with the Alarak certainly paid dividends.
Yeah, especially with the Garrosh, the kill potential, you know, it made the Vala even look like that much more of a risky pick, purely based on one telekinesis combo is about 50% and maybe even more damage when it comes to the HP. But you said, you know, Tempest had moments, and I want to highlight one of those moments, actually. Dami on the Tracer had a absolutely amazing play there.
Okay.
And that's going to be our replay that we have coming up. All right, so first thing that we want to highlight here is going to be the fact that, I mean, obviously this is a very poor situation for Tempest to be in. They're falling behind, and after they end up losing out the Immortal and forcing the recall there onto Dami, he has a very tough situation to find himself in, but he's going to go in onto Tis, and this is where we're going to pause. Look at this jet propulsion being set up. Dami actually senses this, and he's going to take a micro step back and perfect pixel dodge onto the jet propulsion as we scroll right ahead through. This is, I mean, beautiful, and that is not the first time that we see that happen. After that pulse bomb goes down, Gen.G still on full retreat at this point in time, and Rich, he turns around and he's like, you know what, we got to be able to stop this Tracer. And Dami, he says, nah, dodge number 2 there, able to dodge onto the telekinesis, and then last up, Dami moves forward here, a little bit more traditional here, and then body blocks, knowing no jet propulsion, securing the final kill. It does come at a cost here, and